Welcome to Elite Broker, the podcast showcasing the leading players and stories of success from Australia's broking industry.
Hello and welcome back to Elite Broker. Hope you're all having a fabulous week. And in this week's episode, we are heading over to WA as we talk to Capita Finance broker and founder Adam Donald about how he's been building his brokerage over in Western Australia. Now, for long-term listeners of the podcast, you might remember that we actually spoke to Adam way back in 2018 when he was hotly named WA's best resi broker of the year. And in that episode, we were really talking about how he'd been building his business, how his relationships with real estate agents had been beneficial to his business for lead generation, and what sort of things he was doing to approach the WA market downturn at the time. Fast forward to today, and what a difference 8 years make, with WA now in a boom period, having had so much investor activity recently, lots of people looking at moving to WA, and of course, his business going from strength to strength, still one of the leading brokerages over in WA, if not Australia. So in this episode of Elite Broker, we've brought Adam back into the podcast to have a chat about how he's built his brokerage over time, what things he's planning to do with his brokerage in the future, and his top advice for running an award-winning brokerage. Thanks, Adam, for joining us. How are you going?
Thanks for having me.
Nice to have you back. Long time no see, but great to have you back in the podcast and to talk about how things have changed since 2018. As we said, 8 years have passed. How have your sort of broking skills over the last 8 years changed? Do you think there's been much difference?
Yeah, I think, you've had to kind of adjust to the, as you said in the intro, changing market. And, it's more about people trying to upgrade into a cost where basically that may feel out of reach for them. So it's kind of more about approaching it from a realistic point of view where, that mindset of clients might getting a bargain to trying to educate them as to, what really needs to happen in the real world these days. So especially since COVID, I guess, is probably the best time to kind of put a finger on it.
Yeah. So of course, as you mentioned there, lots changed. WA though, pretty free and easy, I think, over COVID. You guys didn't have much of a lockdown over there. I'm sure the Melburnians are very jealous of that. And here in Sydney as well, we had 2 pretty long lockdowns. The second one was 3 months, I think. So it wasn't fun for us. How did it feel though in COVID in WA?
Look, yeah, we complained, but there was nothing really to complain about, as I tell most people. It was more, border closed, Fortress WA. Look, it was one of those things that it was the catalyst for a move in market over here. So a long time of downturn, always, 20 years behind the eastern states, and just, that is kind of, as I tell most of my clients these days, it's actually not that we've had, this gigantic boom once in a lifetime. It's just, I feel personally that it's WA catching back up to the eastern states because we'd been so low. So that's why it feels like such a jump for a lot of people, especially non-home owners predominantly.
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing then for you as a broker over that period, you didn't have to probably change too much because you could still do most things. You could still see people face to face, I imagine, or at least with some, distance, like a couple of meters distance. Did you have to actually change the way that you operated over COVID, and has that impacted how you run the business today?
Yeah, so I used to go to clients' houses a lot still before then, around 2018. The whole Zoom Teams world is now a huge part of my business. I don't leave the office. They either come to me or just due to time and volume. It's one of those changes I had to make. Some people don't like it, especially the customers that have been with me. This is my 21st year of doing this. So, some of the clients are used to me driving out, but, some of those outer suburbs these times, it's just, I was losing too much time in the car. So I just had to adjust the way I was doing business. And look, with COVID, it was one of those things which allowed people to kind of understand that people can do Teams meetings. They don't need to be face to face. And some people like to be in the comfort of their own home. Some people like to still come out. I like people to come out to the office, but happy to do it the other way as well. So.
What proportion do you reckon of your clients now still want you to go to their house?
I don't know. It's since it's been 8 years, since 2019. So no one gets the option. So I don't actually anymore. So I think some of them ask. I might get one every 50, but I think the adjustment with COVID and online and everything like that, I think people, they don't really question it. It's here's your two options. This is what it is. And people go from there.
Yep. Well, we mentioned that, when we last did the podcast with you, you've just been named WA's best residential broker at the Better Business Awards. And obviously we've got Better Business Awards coming back around again. So we're looking forward to coming back to Perth and seeing how all the Perth brokerages are doing. Hopefully we'll see you there, Adam.
You will.
And of course, I think looking at what it takes to be WA's best residential broker is always of interest. But over the years since then, you've won many different awards. I can see in the background there, you've got a massive trophy on your shelf. You've got a whole trophy shelf actually full of trophies. What's your sort of biggest career highlights in the last few years?
I love winning awards. They're great. It's great to be recognised, especially for the family. I call them family, the team as well. For me, we're very lucky at the minute to be. I think we did win the whole thing with the Better Business Awards in 2021, 22.
Broker of the year.
Yeah, Broker of the Year. Best Residential. We won Best Residential last year and Customer Service, but somehow got pipped for Broker of the Year. But I don't know. Not the judge. No, but also we're on a back-to-back with the AFG champion broker in WA. So looking for the three-peat as well. But the team has won a few awards. My mum, who works for me, Kelly, has won some awards. The team won the Bankwest Team of the Year last year. So that's obviously a huge accolade for them and, what we do day to day, I guess. So
I always think it's so interesting with awards because, of course, like every sort of different program rates things differently, whether it's volume based, it might be response based, it might be a combination of both. What for you do you think makes Capita Finance award winning?
Look, it's tough. I see some of my colleagues and I know where I was 2018 about winning awards and, having it on the banner and that. And now, you win these awards and they're great. I think volume is a big one, obviously, but I love the customer service awards. That if you can take home those awards, they're the ones that really you wear on your shirt saying, look, this is what we do well. My team love it because, the way my business works, it is the team really winning that award most of the time. So,
yeah. Well, we'll talk about how you structure your team and what your customer service process looks like. But before we do, let's focus in on what kind of volumes and loans you're writing at the moment. So what sort of either number or dollar value do you reckon you do a year or a month?
Yeah, well, so since the boom, it's progressively, since 2018, we're writing about 100. Last year, we settled about 228, I think it was off the top of my head. So that I think was 380 settled deals. So they're my numbers. I do a lot of metrics on those things because, it's whether you bring on more staff or, are my staff burning out? We have to keep that in check all the time because that's the last thing I want. Otherwise, I always focus back on there's a group of customers that need to be serviced and, we need to make sure that we're doing it in the best possible way that we can.
Yeah. So 380 loans a year. So more than one a day. Right. And that's obviously actually every single day. I assume you don't work every single day. Hopefully you get some downtime.
I actually work only 4 days a week. So it's, I get a day with my son, which is great. And I'm very fortunate to be able to do that because I would never get that time back before he goes to full-time school. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely going to talk about that in a bit as well, about how you manage to get everything done in a 4-day week, because I'm sure everyone will be like, I want to do that too. But what kind of loans are you writing now? Because I think last time we spoke to you, it was majority resi. Is it still majority resi?
Absolutely, yeah. So it'd be about, I would say, 90 to, it's definitely about 90% resi. Commercials in there, SMSF, and also, asset. But, to be honest, a lot of the asset gets sent out to partners that I deal with. But it's all part of the business as a whole. So. Yeah.
And so when you think about the kinds of things you're seeing in WA at the moment, I mean, as we sort of said, such a change over the last few years of what WA's been doing. So many people have been interested in investing. A couple of our journos actually moving to WA in the next few weeks, which I'm kind of blows my mind. I'm a bit like, how are you going to do your job in Sydney from WA? You're going to have to get up at 4 a.m. But, they're willing to do it. So I think but seeing lots of people attracted to WA, what do you think now? Like, where are the real peak areas that you're seeing people are being interested in?
In finance, in the finance world, or just for WA as a whole?
In home ownership, like, are there any
Yeah, home
suburbs?
ownership. All right. So prior to the, where what we're calling the boom at the minute, it was people going from the outer suburbs trying to get to the coast. So, like, we're one of the longest cities in the world, from Yanchep to Mandurah. People just want to be on the beach, whether that's expats coming in, people from London. They're used to, the UK traveling an hour to the city. So now they're traveling an hour to the city. May not be an hour, it's probably 45 minutes, and their kids are on 500 square meters on the beach. So, that mentality, it was what it was like prior to what's been happening. And now it's people who wanted to be on the beach are now probably a suburb back. So they're, it's that mindset of a lot of customers really realizing that the suburbs that they either grew up in or thought that they were going to get into are probably out of reach from a dollar point of view. However, there's a lot of money in WA, like a lot of money. Miners, being, FIFO workers to, professionals. I do find my probably niche sweet spot at the minute is upgrades. So people have made a lot of equity, have big income still, and can obviously sell down and still carry a fair bit of debt with their income and still get to those, blue chip suburbs, schools in particular as well here. So, yeah.
Do you write much bridging loans then?
Heaps.
Did
Yeah.
you used to? Like, is that a relatively new thing?
Yeah, no. I always wrote bridging. They just obviously with 10 odd years of downturn, bridging wasn't potentially an option sometimes. So now with all the equity that they have, it's I find that, building reps won't even take a letter of eligibility anymore. They need to see a pre-approval. So, those, from bridging construction to bridging, just, no real estate agent's going to accept a sub-sale at the minute in this market. Like, the houses on market, supply and demand is, people are screaming for properties to be able to buy, right? And I think we've got about 50 million in pre-approval sitting there just waiting for people to buy houses. So,
Wow. So is that meaning then there's low supply?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's nothing. You can go on realestate.com and, if you've got your filters up and searching with, as I do with clients, and you do it from the map point of view, it's just, there's nothing out there, so, or if it is, it's in the suburbs that are outer suburbs that they weren't trying to get into or upgrade to, is probably, especially those blue chip areas from Scarborough along up to Ocean Reef along the coast. They're really hard to get into.
I don't know if you read the story that I wrote, I think it was in December, which was based on some analysis that Westpac had done, and it had forecast that by 2027, Perth will be the third most expensive capital city in Australia, overtaking Melbourne.
Sure.
So they were saying that basically they think that because of relentless price growth, the sort of median property will reach about $1 million by next year. Which will make it more expensive than Melbourne. So I can't imagine there's going to be much less up for you. It'll mean you're very, very busy in the next few years.
Well, yeah. And look, I don't, clients ask, you meet first home buyers and people trying to get into markets. And I think it's just that expectation people need to have and just understand it. I personally don't see it slowing down, especially this year. It may slow down next year, but I just, it's going to be wild here for quite some time. And as I said earlier, I just think it's a readjustment aligning back to more the eastern states price of coming off 10 years of just, doom and gloom, especially investors that held property for so long. Now they're reaping the benefits of high rents, growth, and because people still have large incomes over here, it's just, they can do a lot with that equity.
Yeah. And of course, we've also had a lot of schemes, housing demand schemes being brought on, things like Help to Buy, things like the 5% deposit scheme. Are you seeing much demand from people wanting to use those?
Oh, yeah, I would do, I reckon, 3 to 5 a week.
Wow. Of the 5% deposit schemes? Yeah,
the home guarantee scheme. Yep.
Here's a question for you then, Adam. So we've been writing obviously a lot on the Advisor on Broker Daily about these schemes. And I think a lot of people who are coming into the scheme might think, fantastic, I don't need to have a huge deposit. I can access, a scheme without having a loan without having to pay LMI, but not necessarily understanding that they then have a 95% loan. how do you explain that to people? Like, do you think, are your clients coming to you and not realizing how kind of over the norm they're going to be in terms of having a really large loan burden?
Well, I think it's all about perspective. When I bought my first home, and the amount of times I've heard, people in the 80s and 90s say, I remember when I bought my first home, it was 19%. I go, yeah, but it cost you $100,000. Like, now it's worth so millions. So, I think it's about perspective. And I wish I had that option. I paid mortgage insurance twice, and I'm a mortgage broker, like when I bought my property. So, that opportunity, yes, they are highly leveraged, but it's a way to get in, and, all these people come in the market and they go, oh, it's so expensive. But it is. But again, whether the home guarantee scheme's done good or bad, I hear arguments from both sides, it's ramped up price. But for homeowners, it's a great thing, right? So people that own 750 properties are now worth 850 in WA because that's our cap. So it's all about perspective. But I think here, in particular with the clients that I see, it's more about they just want to get in. And because over here, rents are just, you think it's bad buying a house. Rent is just out of control, out of control over here. It's just demand. So.
And do you typically see then with the loans that they're kind of coming along, I imagine they're being priced at a 95% LVR rather than an 80% LVR, even though the guarantee, are they quite expensive? Like, are you seeing people now starting to balk at that because there's been the first rate hike?
No. So with the home guarantee schemes, all the banks that are on the scheme, majority of them, and again, I haven't used every one of them, but they will give you a sub 80% rate for a 95% lend.
Yeah.
So it would be a very different take up if it was at a 95% interest rate, right? So in fact, most of the banks, especially the big guys, would, you'd get offered a fixed rate at 95, so you'd be locked in. So, and then there's that whole part. A lot of people that have taken up the home guarantee scheme 18 months ago are out of the mortgage insurance situation now anyway. So they go, and that's the other thing. I do think with the growth that's going to happen here, I think you might be able to get this, but then you can go to a second tier or anything in probably 18 months to 2 years anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Well, we've talked a lot about the kind of trends of things of what you're seeing at the moment, but I'd love to also then talk about, well, how do you actually write all these loans? How do you structure your team? How do you manage to get 4 days a week of work done? And still be able to be building your team? And we're going to get into all this operational stuff now, but we'll just take a quick break and be back in a moment. So Adam, you mentioned there about the fact that you've been obviously scaling your team and that a lot of the customer service that you think Capita Finance delivers is because of your team. Walk me through, how have you structured your team? How many people are in there?
So my business runs purely as me, the only broker. So no other brokers write through code. It's just me with staff. Since 2018, I've tried to bring brokers on and do that kind of method. It's just never worked for me. My business runs on referral only. So my referrers want to see me, or my clients want to see me, or my clients who refer want their friends and family to see me, right? So I structured it on that basis, and I've just built a team around me, which is constantly getting changed, not from people on the ground. It's actually, I'm maneuvering them to always try and be better in how we can simplify and automate and just get things moving quicker and through the system, basically. To answer the question of how do I do it, 4 days a week, I don't do anything except see the client pretty much. So that's how I structure it. And then I've got an amazing team that just process, and I have no idea what they do day to day, but deals get done. So I don't micromanage. I let them win. I let them fail. I always back them in. Client that gets a bit mouthy with them, they go. We don't put up with any of that stuff. We don't have time for people that are going to waste our time. We're here to help, not to get dictated to, is probably the best way. And we're in a profession where we're helping people get homes, so we're on this journey with them, and that's what we really focus on, to make them feel less stress, because it is a stressful thing buying a house these days, especially in our market over here. So we really try and guide them. That's how we do it. So I've got sorry, to answer your question, is I've got 3 on the ground here and then 1 offshore. We're in the process of hiring another offshore at the minute.
Okay, so are the 3 people on the ground all doing like document collection and kind of the calculations, or what exactly? Are they all doing the same thing?
I do all the calculations. So I've after 21 years, I know what's what. But I know where the client's going the first 10 minutes. Like, it's just about getting them on the journey of where they need to be, right? What I've found in my world is people just want confidence and straight shooting. They just want facts and confidence. So if you can give them that and they feel comfortable with who I am, because obviously not everyone's going to like my style. I'm not very polished, but it works for me. And then the team come in with the warm fuzzies and, the hugs and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so it works well. From my point of view, I get to be real decision making. I get to say, this is how we're going to problem solve it. This is what we're going to do. And then the team come in with the, holding their hand through the journey.
So 3 support staff in Australia and a second one coming up in overseas. Did you say the Philippines?
Yeah, Philippines. So I've got Jack, who's just started with me about 6 months ago. He's been amazing. Did a direct hire there. So I went and found the talent, and now I use an outsourcing company for, to maintain what needs to be maintained there.
So what do your offshore staff do?
He's just moved up. We've got volume problems, so he's just moving up to full submissions, whole file all the way. So yeah.
But previously
was vowels, pricings, and more. He was doing a lot more looking into pay slips and calculations on that kind of side.
So this is really interesting to me because I think a lot of brokers, especially in like our awards, I hear this a lot. People go, oh, well, they say that they're only doing this volume, but they didn't tell you that they actually have 5 people behind them. And I'm like, well, that kind of feels like the norm nowadays, I think, where people have a lot of people supporting one broker.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm probably short 1 person. That's why we're hiring the next. The problem was with starting the business at Capita in 2014, I siloed my staff. So I'd have a front end, back end. But if one went down, the whole business didn't work that way. So about 2 years ago, I brought on Jamie, and it was more of a test period where she ran the file from beginning to end. And that file ownership, I found, has been a lot more fluid, is probably the better way to put it. So I'm with my mum, who's been with me since 12 years now. She will eventually...
forever, actually. She's been with you forever.
Forever. So she is amazing. She is my mum. But yeah, over time, she will step back, and I want that siloed part to have predominantly 2 people on the ground here that are client facing, and then a team under them. So they'll be siloed in their own, but they have their own team under them, basically.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure anyone in WA will already know your mum, Deb. She is well known, not only in the industry, but also, of course, won loads of awards herself as well. And I love that sort of family relationship as well. It's always really fun for me to see brokers who work with their family members. But you said she's taking a little bit of a step back now, and you're also 4 days. So how on earth do you manage to get through all the work that needs to get done in that time period? Do you use a lot of technology? Do you actually kind of, have a real sort of slick process?
Yeah. So my process is pretty simple. I see the client. Well, we get all the documents that we require. I then see the client. I do the meetings. I use note taking, so a bit of AI there for that. We then work with automation and some AI that I've been working on to get my notes together, which then goes into the system. The majority of the time now, there's no email send out to basically give them options. The clients decide on the day these days, right? So that goes in, and then it kind of goes through a workflow. And Jamie came on and automated everything for me. So basically, if it goes down this workflow, this is what happens. If it goes construction, this is what happens. So that automation process is really important. But, people that want to write volume, you need to have staff, and staff that know what they're doing. Don't, you pay peanuts, you're not going to get the talent you need. I'm very vocal about it. I pay well. Well, I personally think I pay well compared to, what I see out in the industry. I know my mum doesn't seem to think so sometimes about what she has to put up with. But, so it's about getting the right people around you. And allowing them to be, have the power and will to go and do and make decisions and only never ever come back to me if they have a problem. The best advice I ever got with staff was hire people where you can say, here's the outcome I want, come to me if you have any problems. And as I said earlier, I don't micromanage. I couldn't tell you what they're doing right now. I have no idea, but they are unbelievable at what they do. So
what gets done.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if the volume's there and clients are happy and we rarely get a complaint. The only complaint we get these days is how long it's taking to get the file in the system because we're backlogged. So, that's something that's why we're hiring more staff to try and combat that. So. Yeah.
And I think that what a wonderful problem to have is that you've got too much business to do it quickly. And I think that's a common theme we're hearing across the industry. Obviously, 2025, one of the sort of boom record periods of lending, and I think increasingly, flowing into 2026 as well. Lots and lots of loans being written. We actually just looked at the ABS lending data this morning, and something like a 6% increase in first home buyers in the December quarter alone. So record volumes being written across the board. So a huge amount of activity at the moment. So lots of people looking at hiring on new staff. What do you look for when you're hiring staff then? Because if you said, you don't want newbies, you don't want to pay peanuts and get peanuts. So what do you actually hire for? Are you looking at skill? Are you looking at culture? Are you looking at geography? What is it you want?
So all my staff get the option to either come into the office. Most want to work from home, so I give them that flexibility. I don't need to see them in the office. There's nothing like that. So it's all about it's all about making sure they're go-getters. They're the self-starters basically. And for me, it's about them making sure that they have the confidence and nous to be able to go make decisions and come to me if they have any queries. That's basically it.
And when it comes to, sort of the systems that you're using, you talked about workflow there and how Jamie sort of helped do it. So you've got a process for each type of loan. But do you use, AFG obviously is your broker. You talked about them earlier. Do you use any other kind of tools or tech from AFG or from outside of the group?
Yeah, so we're heavily in brokerage and that workflow system. AFG took about a year to get me stop me faxing my deals back in the day, and so it took them a long time.
Faxing.
Yeah, that's how long I've been doing this, right? So I predate Flex and the systems and all that kind of stuff. So it took them a long time to get me off that, but what I did realize is I'm not a process-driven person. I'm a bull in a china shop. But it works for me, whereas the staff are process-driven. And hiring those people that want to give results but work on a process, that's how I hire. And will come to me if they have a problem rather than every moment of the day coming up with something where, this happened. I'm too busy to deal with that. I just want to see my clients. Yeah. That's where I'm good. That's what I enjoy. And that's dollar productive seeing customers. So
is that kind of where you talked about being in the numbers earlier, where you really prioritize whether or not your business is working as kind of being where is my time being spent or where's my time being drained?
Yeah, so and that was the thing. I was getting bogged down. My biggest problem was the bottleneck of me getting options out to the client. So we made some adjustments where I will see the client, I book in an hour, and then I make sure I have half an hour afterwards to get everything together. So that's it. I do an hour and a half. That is it. And then from there, it goes in the system and goes from there.
Yeah. Okay. And so you mentioned earlier about, kind of knowing within the first 10 minutes where the loan is going. Who do you reckon are your most commonly used lenders?
I do a lot of CBA, a lot, from my numbers, a lot of Macquarie, a lot of NAB. Well, look, to be honest, we don't, I'm doing People's Choice, ING, a lot of Suncorp, but I'm a big fan of customers that are wanting to upgrade. As I've told you, the big three that I really like this product, and a lot of the other banks don't have it, is Suncorp, NAB and CBA. What they do is using redraw, if they want to, people become accustomed to seeing cash, you put the money back in redraw, the money, the loan repayment recalculates to the balance. So they have access to the funds, but from a cash flow point of view, it allows them to reduce their outlay while still holding the cash. And especially people that are used to seeing, you tend to find over time that if people, especially first home buyers, are used to seeing a large lump sum of cash, they won't deplete their entire funds. So they want to access it, reduce the debt down. So I'm, writing a lot of that kind of style product, especially for the upgraders.
Interesting. I didn't realize you could do that on Redraw. I thought that was only on offset. Um, Looking at then, I guess, also the things that you're sort of doing to accelerate. So you talked about, writing a large volume of business, not only number wise, but also the number of loans you're writing. So that, of course, means that you need a big pipeline coming in. You said that you're kind of referral only or 100% referral now. Is that from existing clients or is that from referral partners?
So I got rid of all my real estate agents. I don't have any referrers, none.
Wow.
So there's a point as a broker, which I say to my colleagues in the industry, where your book becomes so big that the time, like we've got 2,000 clients on book, to get through one set, you then at a period where they're wanting to do other things we write a lot of volume of new business as well. So, and then referrals off that. And that's the whole thing about what I was saying earlier about the customer service. If you do a good job, people are going to tell other people. You do a bad job, they'll tell everyone. So, that's how we focus on it. And that's what we, look to maintain is that level of customer service, because it allowed me to get rid of all these people where you're paying commission splits and all that kind of stuff. In fact, I give out more leads now these days. So it's another income stream for me for, all above board, all discussed. But, if I refer out to an agent, I get some kind of commission for doing that, right? Which is business that they would have seen, like they asked for me the other way. So it's all about, having as I said, a good customer experience, so the business just keeps feeding itself.
Yeah. And how long do you reckon, you said you get to a certain size and you don't need referrals anymore. It's sort of self-fulfilling. What size do you reckon that is?
It's dependent on the broker. So I'm always chasing some kind of, it's just my personality, right? I need quick wins, bit of ADD, I need quick wins, right? So I have a number in mind in my trail that I need to get before I'll slow down. So that's that. So, some people will, keep the referrers on to keep the relationships happy. I just focused more on keeping those customers happy, which has worked out well for me. I found for me, it was about 300 million as a book value. That's where it really starts to really take off. I found that I needed the referrers at the beginning, starting again, because as I told you 8 years ago, I had to start again. But yeah, you need those referrers at the start, but don't think that they're going to, as a broker, they're going to be there forever. You don't need them. In fact, I found over the last 10 years, there's been a real shift with real estate agents used to be at the top of the pecking order, then broker, then settlement agent. I'm the one that's, the brokers now who control the money, which is the glue of everything in a deal. They are at the top of the food chain, right? So, agents, they send you out a document. And again, I'm not bagging agents, but these days, the way the market is, it's a document, they pre-fill it, they send out the DocuSign. They don't even see the buyer, they see them at the home open for 10 minutes, but that's it these days. So,
yeah, and I bet there's probably errors in that contract as well. And when
I won't get into that. So,
I was just stoking the flames there.
Yeah. Well, you'd be shocked what happens. Yeah. So you need good settlement agents, and I find that the broker part is everything these days. Like they control. You get calls from agents saying, "Oh, is this okay?" I go, yeah. You're like, "Don't worry, the money will be there. You just deal with your side. I'll deal with my side, and it'll all happen for you." So
yeah. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, I'd like to talk about what you have planned for the future. So how you're going to continue to grow their business, what sort of things you would like to see in market. Like, are there any products or tools or tech you think would be really beneficial for the broking industry or for you personally, and your top advice for new brokers? And we'll get into that just after this. So I know you mentioned there about the fact that, you've been writing a lot of bridging, you've been using specific lenders for that as well, and seeing lots of upgraders coming through. But when you look at the kind of broader market, do you ever think there is a product out there that I would love to see that hasn't been developed yet? Is there anything that you kind of think there's a niche or a hole that's missing?
I think there's always a product, right? That's why we write every bank under the sun. Like I don't lean towards any specific bank. What I would like to see policy changes, like, private health outside of HEM, like that annoys me more than anything. There's been a lot of changes with Strata, which is great, but it's more around those kind of things. Each bank has their niche, but then I think if people banks in particular were able to change certain policies, there'd be a lot more flexibility for people being able to get in. Obviously, FIFO is a huge thing over here. So, if for me, and again, I'm not, not saying that WA should get their own thing, but, because there's a lot of FIFO in Queensland and across Australia, right? But the way they look at casual and all those kind of things for FIFO workers, these guys that are trying to make ends meet by going from job to job, casual to casual shutdowns, like that kind of thing would be great. CBA used to have a 3-month casual process period. Now it's 6 months. I'd love that to go back to 3. I just think there's a lot of opportunity for those kind of customers to be able to get in homes, and all they're doing is the job that they can do, and they're making great money. But, due to recruitment agencies and all that kind of stuff, that's probably where I think a lot of people could still get in the market if banks could change their mindset around that. And since the Royal Commission, banks have become very conservative, and it's really hard to unwind that conservative mindset from credit assessors because it's their jobs on the line. I get that, but you have to unwind it a little bit, because the more you wind it up, the harder it's going to be to unwind it.
Yeah. So do you have to then kind of go to non-bank for that sort of like element of more flexible credit policy?
Yeah, well, there are banks out there that do it. ANZ have a minimum of 28-day gap period and all those kind of things. Macquarie do it. But that's what I was saying earlier. Like, there's no specific bank that I go to. Like, if I look at my book right now and what's in the system, we would have 20 different lenders at a minimum at any given stage.
You mentioned the fact that you write a lot of CBA, and obviously there's been a lot of commentary around them focusing a lot on proprietary and trying to improve their margin that way. Why are you what's attracting you to CBA? Is it the product? Is it the client demand?
CBA, I call it CBA tax. It's really hard for a CBA customer to leave the tech. Really hard. I'm a CBA customer. I couldn't, payroll changes. It's hard. That is hard. As I said, I write a lot of the redraw. That is a huge benefit. They're not great with price, but they're good with policy. And I write policy. I don't write rate, right? So when you break down the numbers from a dollar point of view and you show the customer, this will cost you $100 more per month. Some people will spend the $100 so they don't have to change their everyday banking. I just go with what the client says. So they I can kind of tell what they're going to be like as soon as I meet them. So it's about, as I said, taking them on the journey to go, look, you could go with a Suncorp. And then we would basically make sure that they understand the pros and cons to each, and sometimes CBA outweighs.
So when you look at then, I guess, how else you're building the business, you've already talked about wanting to bring in additional support staff. Do you ever think you'll go to hiring another broker? You mentioned that you're still the sole broker and that you've tried it in the past. Do you think in future you would?
Yeah, I will. So it'll be an exit strategy thing. Mine will be picking the right person that will come in and take the keys. So I will partner with someone. They will write my business, and I've got a model in mind that I will do for that, but it'll be a salaried role at the start, to get them in, and then write their own business, build up their own book, and then maintain my book for that matter. And there'll be some splits and all that. So yeah, it'll be really specific at the time. Or the other option is I combine everything with a group of other brokers, and a Google comes in and starts lending money, and we sell it on it 10 times, but with, billions of $1 billion book as a grouping to someone. So
yeah. Well, I think this is really, really interesting. And I think already this year, I'm going to call it 2026 is a year of consolidation, because we've seen so many brokerages being acquired. Just this month, we had Simplicity being acquired by REA Group, which is a massive commercial brokerage here in Sydney. We've also seen lots of mergers and acquisitions in the sort of top 25 brokerage ranking spaces. So Empower Wealth's done an acquisition, Alec has done an acquisition, Flint, continues to merge with other people. We're seeing all these brokerages sort of partner with other people, become much bigger brokerages. And I think that's partly, we're getting to a point of maturation with the industry, but also I think people starting to think about their succession planning and being like, if you've been broking for 20, 30 years, being like, well, what am I going to do next? Or, you're still pretty young, but like you've been in the industry for a long time. So being like, well, how do I make the next 10 years count? So do you think your plan will probably be work until retirement? Are you planning to kind of tap out when you're, I don't know how old you are now, 50, let's say 60?
Yeah, no, I'm 42 and the retirement age for me is 55. That's the plan.
Okay. So are you working with specific, this is what I want to retire on and working your way to that?
No, I'm always chasing something, unfortunately, but that's not a bad thing. It keeps me hungry, and I enjoy getting up every day and doing what I do. So, my methodology will be a change over the next few years. I can't go too much into it, but there are things that will be happening at Capita because obviously there's a group of us, which will, hopefully become relevant soon. But yeah, and then it'll be to grow the network. I think we can grow the network as a group. We've got great brokers here, and I think there's opportunity. Although I see what Flint do, and they're doing well. Merging, I'm not a huge. I don't think we're a merge kind of business. I think we can bring on people and help them grow and make sure. I like a model of brokers and brokers coming in the industry or coming into this business to make as much money as they want to make. That's what I'm a big fan of. And not having headco taking everything that they can. I think people should be able to leave if they don't like it, if they don't like the culture. I'm all about culture. So, that's what I'm a fan of. So that's the plan in the future.
Yeah. Okay. And when you think about the kind of things that you would like to see the broking industry as a whole, like if you were king of the broking industry for a day, what would you do to make broking better?
Probably have a bit more education. Probably is the big one. I'm not adverse to people going back to uni, and getting like the financial planning industry. And that kind of thing is huge to weed out part-time brokers, these people coming in, because you can make really good money doing this job if you're good at it, right? So there's a lot of people that will see other people making it, they come in and, they just do what they got to do to make money. I think if it was me, I would make it tougher to get into the industry is what I probably do.
Lift the barriers to entry, yeah.
Again, that protects me as well. So don't think that I'm not understanding
it's
that.
in your self-interest.
Yeah.
Stop anyone becoming a broker. Yeah.
Yeah. I vote with my pocket. I am what I am. I know what I am. So yeah, it is what it is.
You mentioned earlier as well about dropping down to 4 days. And I wonder why you decided to do that, how you decided to do that. Like, was it just that, you wanted to spend more time with your family? Was it that you did it 1 week and decided it was great? Like, how did you actually decide to do that? Because it's quite a big step to take.
Yeah, I did. My wife and I decided, and me, we had a kid, and I see dads doing their day to day, and I was able to take 1 day because we structured the business that way, where I get this 1 day a week where it was mine. I could do whatever I wanted with him, give my wife some bit of time and that as well. But predominantly, if I wanted to go to bounce, I'd go to bounce. If I want to go to the beach, we go to the beach, but my wife would come along if she wanted, but it was my day with him, and that you will never get that time back at that age ever. And if I could recommend that to anyone, I suffer pretty bad anxiety. I'm medicated for it and all that kind of stuff. So, that thing really calms me and keeps me focused. And then I come back to work the next day and I'm ready to go. That 1 day, middle of the week as well. So break it up, which is great, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, also having some sort of outlet, because it is a very stressful job and you're dealing with people who are stressed as well, which you mentioned before. So you kind of absorb all that energy. So it's really important to have an outlet to try and rebalance and kind of make sure you're at the top of your game. And this is something that we talk about a lot on the advisor, is just making sure that everyone is conscious of, actually taking some time and not burning out and doing something for themselves. Do you have any other extracurricular hobbies that you do to unwind and de-stress, or any kind of things that you do if you've had a particularly stressful day?
Gym. Yeah. I need that hour most days. And again, I take it in the middle of the day. So it sounds like I'm never working. It sounds like, but, yeah, the gym is one thing where I can focus. I've got time. It makes me feel better. The endorphins. I'm doing a lot more audiobooks as well. I'm finding I'm enjoying that just for my mental health. I'm big advocate for mental health. It's in our job as well, as you said, people will project their stress. You might get someone that calls you every minute of every day. Again, it's more my staff dealing with that, so I get it. But yeah, those kind of stresses are, especially me as a person who battles with anxiety and that kind of thing. I need those outlets. If I don't take them, I will spiral either at home or I'll spiral at work. And my family doesn't deserve that, and neither do my staff.
Yeah, well, it's wonderful that you sort of can recognize that and mitigate that, and good for you for making those sort of, those boundaries to be like, this is what I'm doing. You mentioned there around audiobooks. Any good recommendations? Anything you're listening to at the moment?
I'll tell you one I finished with. Well, I actually read this book, but it wasn't an audiobook, but Die with Zero. If you ever get a chance, it's about structuring your life to die with zero. Basically, there's a tipping point in life where you cannot spend all your wealth. So spend it because you can't leave with it. And when I say die with zero, in the book, it actually brings up, you're not leaving the kids out of the, like, it's all about
$0. That's what it means.
Yeah, $0. So the kids are factored, everything's factored. Like, you get to see them buy their first home, help them with that, buy the first car, make sure, because it's all about experiences. Yeah, on the one thing you take out of it is on your deathbed, you don't remember the money or the day that you worked an extra day. It's the experiences you had with your friends and family that are the most important. So spend the money, because as I tell my mum, who it needs to start slowing down. Your body will give up at a certain point. You can't climb up a mountain at a certain age. So you need to go do that now. Otherwise you won't ever do it.
Yeah. And I think that is something that we're really hearing a lot. And particularly at the moment, I think with the old generation, the first like sort of boomers retiring, we keep hearing that so much superannuation people, pass away with trillions, like as a country, trillions of dollars in super that's unused, and sort of being like, well, why? Like, why wait?
Yeah, I'm going to literally spend every cent I have. So yeah, and my son will be taken care of. Don't get me wrong, like everything's set up in a structure and trust and that. But yeah, I just at 55, I'm going to burn through it like I can't even burn through it. Like it is going to be wild.
Oh goodness! So, well, I'll wait to see your plans for your 55th birthday. But yeah, just going around the world in a hot air balloon or something.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Yeah, I've got a colleague of mine here. Yeah, you'd know Hansy. He's got some crazy ideas. David Hans with Mortgage Australia. He has cruises in his, and he was one of the guys that kind of got me into looking at it. Like he has a plan. I had no plan. I had no idea what I was doing, but a plan is really important. If you don't have a plan, you're just, rat racing it basically.
Yeah. Well, I think that's good advice for both life and for business. Make sure you've got a plan, something to work towards. Adam, thank you so much for sharing your story and your insights with us again here on Elite Broker and talking about how much has changed over the years. We really appreciate you coming back and sharing your insights with us.
No problem. I'll see you in 8 years.
So, yeah. If you've got any questions for me or for Adam, then do feel free to reach out. You can reach me at editor@theadvisor.com.au, and of course Adam at Capita Finance over in WA. And if you haven't yet bought your tickets for the Better Business Summit and Better Business Awards, do make sure you do. They are selling incredibly quickly. This year's Better Business Summit as well is all about scaling brokerages. So hearing from people who are running the top 25 brokerages in the industry about how they built their business. We're hearing from F1 chief operations people about how you can really make sure your business is running like a Formula One car. We've got Sydney Swan speaking about how sports teams are running their businesses and what sort of performance management looks like. We're also looking at things like AI and technology, how you can improving your marketing by tapping into GEO as well as SEO and making sure you're coming up on large language models. Plus all this, and really top advice from Maxine Horner, the Shark and also CEO and founder of Vita Group, as she talks about what business performance excellence looks like to her. So do make sure you get your summit tickets. Come along to the awards as well. Of course, we'll be crowning each state and territory's top brokers for the year. We hope you have a fab week, and we'll catch you next time for another episode on the Advisor Podcast Network.